All right, guys, welcome back to the fourth episode?
Fourth.
Episode of Fourth and Football. Everything's starting to blur together here. It was a fun-packed filled weekend, full of football again, some upsets, some things we like to talk about. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jacob.
I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Ricky.
All right, so pretty good week of football.
Yeah.
I enjoyed a lot of games, a lot of big games, and a lot of upsets once again. So it's been a real big week in football. But let's hop into weekly recap. And what's the first game y'all want to hop into?
The Chiefs-Falcons, I think.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Ricky?
I mean, what's not to say about the Chiefs-Falcons game? We had, an amazing offensive performance by both teams. We were looking at Kirk Cousins actually perform in a primetime game again, 2 weeks in a row. I mean, call him lucky, call it a coincidence. It happened twice.
I call it Kirko Chains.
Kirko Chains.
Yeah.
Atlanta's finally flowing through his blood.
Yeah.
But we saw Falcons offense has definitely fallen into a groove. A Chiefs offense that, like I said, is missing Pacheco. And we definitely hit the nail on the head with Travis Kelce looking a little, I don't want to say soft, but.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. His performance is lackluster. Is he going to snap out of this? Do you feel like this is him for the rest of the season, or he just needs playoff time?
I'm going to go back to, kind of what I said last week, that, no, this is Travis Kelce now. It's Rashee Rice's offense. I think it showed again.
Yeah, 14 targets last week.
Rolled through Rashee, and then Carson Steele, I thought played pretty well.
He did.
He did fill in.
We did allude to that, though, right? I mean, we said kind of plug-and-play offense.
Mm-hmm.
It's that type of system like the 49ers.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, the 49ers offense, that's the best run game in the game.
Well, I mean, just the way they have it built where they can kind of just plug in small pieces.
Yeah.
Because as long as you got a couple big pieces.
I mean, but one of your biggest pieces, and Kelce has not been playing like a big piece, and that scares me on that offense. I mean, still your Super Bowl champion, and still you're not, but
they don't even look fully together, but they still look like the best team in football.
Yeah, I think they need to find a way to get Xavier Worthy more involved. I mean, week one, they got him involved and he produced, but since then he hasn't really produced or really put up any numbers.
I mean, if there's anyone in the NFL that can unlock that speed, it's definitely Andy Reid. That's for sure.
100%.
But the question is, do y'all think the Chiefs got lucky, or do you think they're just that great where they can win games and not even playing that great?
I think it's a little bit of both.
I mean, they're in the position to win every game, and if you're in the position to win every game, it helps to be lucky,
I know you get a lot about the Chiefs and the refs. Do y'all think that's been a factor every week of the game, or do you think been certain games? What do y'all think about that?
I think we see it every week with they get a little favoritism every single week. But it's getting to the point where it's like a big call now.
Yeah.
For like repetitive weeks.
Was it Pitts in the end zone?
Pitts in the end zone.
Yeah.
Happened last week too. I guess all I got to say is like they've always done this. They did it with the Patriots. They did it with. Don't make it so obvious to where it's like kind of ticking people off.
They've been doing it for years. They did it with the Cowboys in the 90s.
Yeah.
They did it with the Steelers before that, and now they did it with the Patriots, and now it looks like it's going to be the Chiefs as the next team.
I know you need somebody to drive
help with.
Your league. You need a face of the league. But I think everybody would agree it's kind of outlandish how much it happens.
I mean, like I said before, if you're the best team in the league, you're going to be in every game. And if one call goes a different way in a meaningless game, no one talks about it, But they're in every single game, so these calls are going to happen.
Yeah. There's some truth to that. I would say it's more the light is more shine on is shown on them. So it's highlighted when that stuff does happen.
Pretty much every primetime game it feels like anymore, so we get to see them a lot.
It reminds me a lot of the start of last year for the Chiefs. The defense is really holding up for them, even though the offense doesn't look like they're fully connecting yet.
For sure.
I think they are. I think they're just getting a little bit of the rust off. I think by week 4 and 5, we'll see all the teams kind of rust free. The offense isn't having too much of a hard time. It's not what we think it's going to be. Now, it has better potential with the speed of Worthy to be more explosive, but I think this is what it's going to look like all year.
I think you're right. I think you're right on that.
All right. Moving on to the Rams and 49ers. Another really good game, another late quarter comeback we saw. Matthew Stafford does it like we've seen many times for Matthew Stafford, and another upset this week. I mean, Brock Purdy looked strong, but just couldn't close out the game. What are y'all's thoughts on that game?
Josh Cardi nailed a 37-yard field goal with just seconds to go ahead. I think it was a well-fought battle by both teams. You could see the 49ers were not all together. Their injuries are hurting them, of course.
Hurt the Rams too.
Yeah.
It did, and the better team, I feel like, in my opinion, I alluded to it earlier this year. I got them taking it over the 49ers. The better team won. The better coach team won. If you ask me, one of them has won a Super Bowl. One of the coaches has not. Sean McVay, in my opinion, is just a better coach. Probably comes down to better coaching in this game with the star players out.
I'm just glad we're getting to see this NFC West football. Like I said last week, this division is going to be the best division in the NFL. We're going to see games like this from every time these divisions play.
Yeah.
Except for last week when the Cardinals, ran through with the Rams. But I think that's an anomaly when it comes to this division. But for the 49ers, you had Brock Purdy look probably his best game he's ever had as a pro. 293 yards.
Yeah.
293 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, sure they all went to the same guy, but
Not all, but shout out Jawan Jennings. I mean, what a game, right?
might as well.
Yeah.
But I think Brock Purdy looked really good. I mean, we all knew that he wasn't the guy to win you the game, but he didn't lose him the game. I think this came down to the Rams getting the ball at the end of the game. We were able to put a drive together, and the 49ers defense not having Vernon Hargraves, which is going to be a big blow to them coming down the stretch.
Still missing Dre Greenlaw.
But it's a great game. I'm not taking it away from the 49ers. This downgrades them, but both teams are playoff contenders for sure.
I know it might be a little early, but I wanted to touch on this. Do the 49ers look, I guess, dumb for paying Brandon Ayuk all this money for the start he's having with them?
It's not looking good. I feel like, he's more rusted over than most players are. It's going to take a little bit more time till he gets the flow of things because, he held out for so long. But I've always said he's just a barely above average receiver. I don't think he deserved to get paid that much. I would have traded him personally and just focus on the guys you got. Of course, you couldn't see the Ricky Pearsall thing happening, so that kind of put you in a weird situation too. So where you're missing a lot of pieces of this offense, but regardless, I feel like Ayuk has not shown up yet.
I agree.
I definitely agree with that too. I mean, he had 10 targets in this game out of 30 attempts, 30% of your target share or 33% of your target share going to a guy who's got, 4 drops in this game?
Yeah.
He definitely looks rusty. I think he'll pick it up probably late in this season, but like you said, they really shouldn't have paid this guy. I think they kind of got scared and were worried that their Super Bowl window was closing, so they trying to keep the same pieces that they had from last year, but I think that he's a piece that you could replace.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so moving on, Texans-Vikings. I know that's gonna be tough for somebody over here.
How do you feel about that one, Jacob?
Oh, man, this was a slaughter. We were watching it, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. I think you called it would be a slaughter, but the other way around last
I
week.
think we all said that too.
The Vikings are for real. Brian Flores is for real. Kevin O'Connell could be in running for Coach of the Year by the end of the year, the way he has them looking. I don't think they'll end up being, a top-seeded team in the playoffs, but they could possibly make the playoffs in that division. Man, C.J. Stroud looked flustered. He looked flustered. The defense couldn't keep up with the Vikings offense. The time that when he did get time in the pocket, CJ, he wouldn't make the right decisions. His whole tempo, his whole rhythm was off. They did a very good job of that. I mean, they put him on his butt a couple times. He was feeling it. It was just an L. You got to learn. You got to grow from that.
I think that this is probably the best thing that happened for the Texans, especially if you have someone like the Vikings come out and punch you in the mouth early in the game. I think the Texans are going to grow from this, look like a better team afterwards. You'd rather have them do this early in the season than late in the season. But then again, that Vikings defense is for real.
And there's a couple Texans pieces from last year. Grenard, Cashman, they came from the Texans defense last year.
That's what
Grenard was the leading
yeah.
pass rusher last year. He got 3 on CJ by
Revenge
himself. Revenge game for him. I say not signing. I know I saw an interview. CJ was like, I wish we could bring these guys back, but they could never get them to come back. It just didn't work out financially. And the pieces that we got, we got Daniil Hunter from the Vikings. Yeah. Maybe it was one of those things like I know a little bit more than you think I know on you with the Cashman, the Grenard, and then those guys went up against Daniil every week, every day in practice. So could be something like that. I don't know. I think they just had their number, and I wouldn't be surprised if we played them again, they had our number again, because it might be one of the things that takes more than 1 or 2 games to get over.
But also you have that Flores defense who looked amazing once against the 49ers, now twice against the
The same
Texans,
scheme.
Same scheme, looking really good. I think the biggest takeaway from me that I learned was that this Vikings offensive line is for real. I mean, I don't think Sam Darnold got touched back there.
No, he was dialed in.
Yeah.
You know, he had plenty of time, but he also had a very quick release. He didn't really need it. I think that works one and together. Aaron Jones was able to rush for 102 yards. Aaron Jones had a big day.
I hate to keep you talking about it.
Yeah, it's kind of detrimental to my soul for this week, but
how do we feel about the Vikings going forward, though?
I think I alluded to it. I mean, that's how I feel. Potential playoff team.
I think they're the real deal. I mean, you come out, you beat the 49ers, and you beat the Texans. That's two teams everyone said are top contenders. And you come out and you beat both of them, and you beat one of them really bad. I mean, I think they have to be called the real deal now. I mean, number one defense so far, I think, through football.
For sure.
And then the offense, they're rolling. Sam Darnold looks like a Pro Bowl top-level quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm excited to see that game they're playing against the Packers. With Jordan
Packers
Love
coming up,
back?
this week. That'll be a good one.
Yeah.
Do you think it's safe to say that was C.J. Stroud's worst game of his career?
Ooh, I would say, yeah, it's probably safe to say so. That one or the Jets game last year, but this was pretty bad. I mean, I haven't seen him look this lost.
Is this the first game he's thrown 2 interceptions? Or did
No,
he
I
do
think
that
this is
last year?
second. I think he threw 2 against the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken.
Even with CJ Stroud looking bad, though, I'm
not worried about it.
I'm not worried
Yeah.
about it.
No, you're going to have those games.
Everyone has those games.
Yeah, you don't finish the season perfect.
Do you think the struggle was mainly because Nico Collins had been such a threat every week and he had just been finding him all the time and they kind of took away that first read for him?
They did take away Nico, and Stephon stepped up a little bit. You know, he made the catches that were catchable. I think it was legitimately just our O-line and the penalties, the discipline. D'Amico alluded to it in an interview. The discipline, of course. I think discipline's probably our number one thing right now. You can see it in our secondary early on. And just, we weren't ready. They just weren't ready for him.
Joe Mixon being out, do you think that played a little bit of a factor?
Yeah, in the run game, Cam Akers, you know, is better than people give him credit, but he's still not a Joe Mixon. He's not that type of caliber player. You got to remember Joe Mixon's the top 5 back in this league. And without that, you're going to miss. The run game's going to miss it.
The Eagles Saints, we saw a 2-0 team, a team that was super hot, had 91 points through 2 weeks, go down in a defensive battle. Defensive game, I don't think any of us saw coming.
No. I mean, we talked about it last week that we thought that Eagles defense was suspect, but then they come in and shut down this high-flying rushing attack from the Saints. I mean,
and passing.
And passing.
Shaheed didn't have a single yard.
Yeah.
Shaheed was locked down. A lot of it finally looked good. I mean, I'm confident to see that.
Yeah.
But as for the rest of that Saints offense, I mean, didn't even score a touchdown, did they?
They scored one,
They
I
got
thought.
one.
Yeah, one.
They got one at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
thought
they
it
didn't
was
get one toward-
2 field goals.
No, they had 13. It was 15-13.
Okay, 15.
It was 15-12.
12?
Mm-hmm. They may not have scored a touchdown. Regardless, the Eagles defense did patch some holes this week. You could see it.
But that Eagles offense definitely looks lost without A.J. Brown.
Only one that's clicking right now is Saquon. I mean, this guy might be playing like the best NFL player in the NFL today.
Yeah. He's leading and rushing right now.
Yeah, he's looking really good. So when you can always lean on that run game, Saquon, Kenneth Gainwell, when he comes in from time to time, you always have a direction to go in a game. If you can run the ball, it sets up everything else. It was a hard-fought game. I get for two really good teams, but I think probably the Eagles killed the fire of the Saints that had it hot and heavy. I think we'll start to see them kilter off a little bit moving forward.
I was going to say, were y'all more impressed with the Eagles' defense or more disappointed in that Saints offense?
I'm not disappointed in the Saints offense because I felt like most of us feel like it was going to slow down eventually. Impressed with the Eagles defense getting it together.
I think I'm still impressed with that Saints defense too. I mean, we came into the last week saying that this Eagles offense is a really good offense, but also they don't really have a stick move over there besides Saquon. I mean, without A.J. Brown, I feel like that passing game is lost.
And it looks like Devontae Smith is going to miss some time for him too. I mean, it looks like it might be a tough stretch for the Eagles.
They might just be having to run the ball a lot. Do with Jalen. Jalen maneuvered well this in this game.
Lean on
and
Dotson and Goddard.
Goddard balled, man. Yeah. Goddard balled out, player of the game for sure. He still got it. Got to lean on. You got vets there. We forget with all the stars they have on that team that they got some savvy veterans there that can make plays. I wouldn't be too worried about them. Maybe drop a game in the next few weeks, but they'll be all right.
Moving on to the team we love to hate and everyone loves to love, The Dallas Cowboys lose again to the Baltimore Ravens. Can't stop the run. I mean, what are your thoughts on that game?
I mean,
Didn't you call Cowboys, Ricky?
I mean, I did call Cowboys, but I did say that the Ravens were gonna throw that game, and I was sitting here looking at the Ravens almost get that final drive off, and I was like, man, am I gonna be just that super right? but definitely, I mean, the one good takeaway that the Cowboys can take from this game is that they got punched early, they got punched hard, they almost came back on them. But are we saying it's that because the Ravens almost threw away the game, or did Dallas finally figure it out?
I think the Ravens knew they had the game won and quit just a little too early. I think a lot of that, what we saw at the end by the Cowboys, just garbage time stats, and the Ravens were like, "Oh, okay, we gotta shut them down real quick before they actually do make a comeback." The game was over. It wasn't as close as it looked, man. The run game finally kicked in. 25 rushes, I think, from Henry.
Yeah,
100 plus yards.
130 yards.
Yeah, 100 plus yards. You got to feed the guy. Why would you not? This is who the Ravens are. It's not a pass first team. It's not explosive down the field. They hit those from time to time, but every team does. It's the NFL. They are a run first team. They need to play like this all year round. Keep the freaking defense off the field, so when they're on that field, they're ready to go. You can't wear them out and keep them on the field all game.
On the Cowboys, I've heard from some fans, they're disappointed in the defense, and some are saying, we shouldn't have paid Dak that money. He can't win the games. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't think Dak was worth 60. I'm not trying to harp on the guy too hard. But I don't think you pay the guy 60. I think the most you pay him is 55. Pay him earlier. Pay him about 55. Dak is not a go win it quarterback. He never has been. He never been that. I don't know why they expect that from him. I feel like the defense is fraudulent. We all see that. It's regressing. We see them play against the Browns, and all the takes we made at the beginning, we were kind of like, oh, put it on standby. But they're starting to unravel sooner than we thought. It's a long season. It could go either way for the Cowboys. It's not looking good, though, right now.
I mean, with the Dak situation, I think that they were put in a very weird area because he was going to get that on the open market. Like, you've got...
From a bad team, though.
Yeah, from a bad team, but that makes the Cowboys kind of a bad team now that they have their quarterback tying up all of his cap space. You signed CD for how long?
4 years.
4 years. I mean, that's pretty much all you're going to get on the offensive side for a while unless you rebuild from the drafts, and they have not been good on draft picks for the past couple of years. And I think you're seeing
They've been
that.
hit or miss on draft picks for sure. Boom or bust. I mean, did y'all see the banter between CD and Dak on the sideline?
I also saw it between Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yeah.
So it looks like
there's some trouble possibly.
Oh, for sure. It sounds like they're crumbling on both sides of the ball down there in Dallas. I mean, I'm going to put the blame mainly on the offense. I mean, 28 points to one of the best teams in football. I mean, that should be a winnable game.
Yeah.
For an offense that's supposed to be a top offense in football.
High-powered.
You can't wait till the fourth quarter to get your offense going and scoring touchdowns.
Yeah. I think that's the only reason it got going is because, I mean, it was garbage time. I 100% believe that. We see it all the time with the Cowboys.
I mean, if it wasn't for them recovering that onside kick, like you mentioned earlier in the season, it seems like they're always getting help from special teams every single week.
Aubrey's definitely
It is. They have
best
when the
player.
Cowboys win, they win in all facets of the game. I'll give them that. But very, very rarely do all facets of their game show up.
I mean, as we see there, the defense struggles early, the offense struggles early, and then in the second half, they kind of start putting it together, but you can't wait till the second half to put everything together. You have to play a full, complete game to beat a team like the Ravens.
You got to put some points on the board, that's for sure. I mean, you alluded to it. I like what you said. I mean, 28 points, only giving up against that offense. You're Dak Prescott. You're my $60 million. These are the games we pay you for to take over and win.
I'm just glad Dak's the highest paid quarterback now. I didn't got to hear it being a Browns fan.
So moving on to next week, you got my Giants coming off a big win against Ricky's Browns.
Whatever.
And then you got that matchup, rivalry matchup, Thursday Night Football with the Cowboys in New York.
Ooh.
How do y'all think that game plays out?
I mean,
Concrete jungle, wet dream tomato.
I think this is the game that gives Cowboys fans confidence again. We see this every year. You got your highs of the high and the lows of the low. Right now we're at the lows of the low, and then next week they'll do the same thing they did to the Browns and come out, look dominant on all facets of the game. But, I mean, Cowboys are still a playoff team, yeah, but it's not they're
You think they're gonna roar back? I agree with you
Yeah.
100%. They're gonna roar back from these last couple of losses and take it out on the Giants. Everybody's gonna get excited. Oh yeah, they look so good. It's the Giants. No offense. If I was a Giant, if you guys make it a game, I would feel good if I was a Giants fan. If you guys make it a game, because you're gonna get the best version of Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they're gonna be mentally ready. They're just gonna come back
I'm
roaring.
gonna be honest though. If this was in Dallas, I would give it to the Giants because it seems like they always show up in Dallas.
That would be something.
I mean,
But I mean, we can talk. Like, can we talk about Daniel Jones?
yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones played pretty efficient, played pretty well. We saw some stats earlier today where two quarterbacks eerily similar. They both have a playoff win. One has a better winning percentage. It's Daniel Jones, and guess who the other guy is?
I've seen this. It's old Trevor Lawrence saying it.
Trevor
Trevor
Lawrence,
Lawrence.
the prodigy.
Who do you think has the better winning percentage?
I think it was what Trevor Lawrence.
It's
No,
Daniel
it's
Jones.
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones has the better winning percentage and the better touchdown turnover ratio.
Yeah.
So is the wrong quarterback being praised? Should Daniel Jones be getting a little bit more praise compared to Trevor Lawrence, or do you think they both should be getting canned?
I think a lot of patience is given towards Trevor because he's been the golden boy since way back when,
High
you know?
school.
Yeah, since high school. And we're so quick to – and look how much they're paying Trevor. The Daniel Jones contract looks a little bit better when you look at it like that, and he's producing more with less than Trevor Lawrence is.
This is true.
And he's a better rusher.
So you confident with Trevor or with Daniel Jones going forward? With
I like the
team?
Daniel Jones contract if you think about it in that aspect and when he performs.
How I look at Daniel Jones is, let's see how this season plays out. You know, if he has, you know, another kind of, let's say he has the best season of his career so far. It's not even got to be crazy, you know, like right at the point where, well, do we give him one more year since we do have that contract for a little bit? I would say give him another year. Or if we do draft a guy, let him learn behind Daniel Jones or sit a little bit just to help learn and grasp the offense a little bit more. So definitely keep him around the team. But depending on who's there in the draft, really, I guess, is what I'm going to say when it comes to draft time. But if I had to pick now if I'm okay with rocking with Daniel Jones for next season, I would say, yeah, I'm okay with rocking one more season. And it's going to help us if we do decide to move on the next year when it comes to cap space. We'll have less dead money to drop. So.
Yeah. Malik Neighbors, though.
He's him.
Wide receiver 1?
Wide receiver 1, you know, looking like a top 10 wide receiver in football.
Yeah.
I won't start calling it that right now, but you can talk to me in, 3-4 more weeks and he's playing like this, I'll call him a top 10 receiver.
Guys like that, you see right away they hit. Week 1, week 2, you see it. It's special.
I mean, you saw last week with Marvin, this week with Neighbors.
Is drafting an LSU wide receiver just the best thing to do in the draft?
It seems like it's rock solid.
It's probably 80% hit. I mean, realistically, in the early rounds, if you got a guy that's supposed to go in the early rounds, yeah.
Can you think of one that didn't hit recently?
Boutte.
Yeah.
And,
Which he went late in the draft.
Did he go later?
Yeah, he went real
Okay.
late in the draft. So I say real late, like 4th, 5th round.
Okay, yeah. So I say top 3 rounds, you draft the LSU receiver, you're probably going to hit.
Because back to the Jaguars, I mean, Brian Thomas looks pretty solid. For
Yeah.
him. But back to that Cowboys-Giants game real quick. So you're rocking with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I think my gut's telling me, like my head and my gut are probably telling me Cowboys, probably convincingly. But I want to upset in this one. I always do. I want to upset. I'm gonna go with the Giants by like a field goal.
So I know y'all are gonna call biased, and of course, I mean I give y'all crap for calling biased all the time. But my Giants finally won a game. We looked good.
Against
It's
the Browns.
Against-
a bad Browns team. I mean,
But-
Yeah, but the offense produced more.
Look at the score. We held the Browns to less points than the Cowboys, and we put up about the same. Because I mean, you give us that last touchdown with Singletary, just falls at the 1. We put up 28 points. I mean, we played very similar to how the Cowboys played them.
Yeah.
So
There wasn't like a big difference in the two teams, like
Mm-mm.
in the results of the game. I think the offense was better. Daniel Jones performed better against them. And the running game was a little bit better against them.
the Cowboys O-line has looked not so great compared
Dexter
to what
Lawrence
we've seen.
is a game record.
And our defensive line finally got it going last week. Burns with the strip sack,
Yeah.
Thibodeau getting back there, and Lawrence. I mean,
yeah.
Lawrence was dominant all game.
I mean, your front seven should be one of the best in the game.
Last week it looked like it.
And it should be. You should expect that if they can get that going.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I think the Giants do win next week. This week.
I don't think they have the recipe to beat the Cowboys. Though.
That's
I don't- I
Thursday,
don't-
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have the run game to beat the Cowboys.
I don't think we have to have the great game plan to beat the Cowboys. I feel like the Cowboys might have so much problems internally that the Cowboys might end up beating themselves.
I mean,
It is.
that is
It
very
could be a trap
Cowboys
game.
thing.
It could be a trap game. But don't sleep on Devin Singletary. I mean, Texans had him last year. He surprised me a lot. He actually won 1 or 2 games for us. He is a starter in this league. He may be a low end starter, but he is a starter starting back in this league for a reason. I mean, he produces from time to time.
He looked good against your former team.
I mean, it is
your
my team.
Yeah,
That's
So
right.
sure.
I ain't
That's
jumping
why
ship yet.
Ricky's
Yeah.
going Cowboys. He's
He's
sore.
going to switch over to the Cowboys now.
Bro, it's watching both those teams beat mine was it's hard.
All right, Rick, you got a start bench cut. You got Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, and Trevor Lawrence. Who you getting rid of?
I mean, can I
Ooh.
just like ship Deshaun Watson out to like Alcatraz or something like super cut? Give me Lawrence and I'll trade old Daniel Jones.
Mm.
All right. Well, speaking of Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, let's touch a little bit on these 0-3 and some of these 3-0 teams.
Okay.
Which one of these 3-0 teams do you think look like the best team out of all of them right now? And which one of these 0-3 teams do you see getting better and possibly making a playoff run, or just really falling off even harder?
I think I got the Steelers holding true to form longer in the season. The defense is tried and true. It has been every single year. That's not going to change. Even when people go down, they still perform. They're going to have 1 or 2 games in the season where they look like shit, and people question the Steelers' defense, but they always bring it back. All Justin Fields has to do is just not lose the games, make a play here and there.
And
I think
he's
that's
done that.
I think it's a simple recipe, and it's a recipe for success.
Man, last time the Steelers looked this good was 2020, and they lost in the playoffs to the Browns. Just reminding you guys. I mean,
All right.
maybe history can repeat itself. But give me the Vikings. Man, that defense looks great. Sam Darnold, like you said, similar situation with the Steelers, doesn't really have to win them games. Just toss it to Justin Jefferson a couple times, and that'll do it for you on the offensive side. But that defense is winning them games handily. Looking forward to this next week, though.
I'm going to touch on a little bit of a safer team, I guess. I'm going to touch with the Bills.
Yeah.
Oh,
mean,
yeah. You kind of forget about them because we expect them to be good.
Yeah.
Then there's the underlying
I mean, they look
underestimation of
amazing.
them this
Yeah.
year. But
I mean, their defense has looked like one of the best defenses in football. They've stopped everybody they've played except the Cardinals. The Cardinals gave them some problems. But, I mean, you go against the Jags, you go against the Dolphins, and you're like, wow, this defense looks like the real deal. And then Josh Allen finally has one of those big Josh Allen games we're used to that last week.
Yeah.
4 touchdowns.
it seemed controlled.
Yeah.
It didn't seem wild.
No. And I say this team looks more like a team. You mean you see someone makes a good play, they're all teams excited.
Yeah.
Last year, you did not see that with the guys on that team.
Yeah, you could kind of feel the ego through the TV as you watched.
Mhm.
This year is more of a cohesive unit. They're quiet, but they're winning games. Josh Allen's quiet. Well, he's having the best season of his career so far. It's very exciting to watch.
I think, like I said last week, we're seeing the progression of Josh Allen as a passer, like not making those wild plays, dink and dunking it when he needs to.
His maturity, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's scary for defenses to see.
For the whole league.
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to have a conversation later in the year? Of course, you got to put respect on Mahomes' name. He has the rings. He wins all the big games. But are we going to have a conversation later, or can we have it now? I mean, is Allen the best QB in the NFL?
I think you have to give it to Mahomes just because what he does year in, year out. But if you're regular season, I would say regular season, like playoffs aside, just regular season, he's the best player in the league.
I mean, I have to agree with that. I mean, you see it this year. Mahomes he's not off to a good start. He has 5 touchdowns, but he has 4 picks.
Yeah.
Josh Allen is still yet to throw a pick and has 7 touchdowns.
Mhm.
That's not counting running the ball with 2 extra there.
I mean, he's been favored to win MVP going into every season for the last 2, 3, 4 years. We all know what he's capable of. He's just always tried to do too much, I guess, seems like, and ends up turning the ball over, giving the games away. This year, he's on a mission. You can see it. We could say at the end of this year, pending a Super Bowl, best quarterback in football.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, like you said, alluded to, you just got to keep it on Mahomes until it gets taken from him. I mean, you're the king until the crown gets taken, right?
Yeah.
So, Josh Allen's coming for that crown for sure. And I think your MVP pick of last week is going to hold true.
All right, so these 0-3 teams, you got the Titans, you got the Jaguars, you got the Bengals. Do you think any of those teams have a chance to make a run, or do you see all of those teams finishing in the bottom of the league this year?
I hate to say it, but it's looking like I don't think the Bengals will do what they normally do: look bad in the first 4 games and get it together. I don't think they're a clear cut choice for a playoff spot, especially in that division in that conference. They're probably going to all fall. I hate to say it, but I can see them all being bottom teams. Maybe not top bottom 5, but bottom 10 for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I wasn't high on the Bengals early in the season or even before the season started. Even without all the Chase drama, even without T. Higgins getting franchise tagged after holding out a little bit, this team is very lopsided towards the offense. And last week they played the Chiefs well, but they're built to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm afraid that they're not built to beat the rest of the league now, you know?
It's not looking like it. The close games, you can tell it takes a lot out of them, especially when they don't get that victory. I mean, it would anybody. I think there's a real question mark at head coach with Zach Taylor. Early on, he looked like a hit because Joe Burrow was hitting, but Joe Burrow's not looking good. It's early in the season, but when you have a high-ticket quarterback like that, you need somebody to get the best out of them. The head coach, the quarterback, that's the most important relationship in this game. If you don't have that, you're not going anywhere. We've seen it time and time again.
I think losing Joe Mixon, though, is probably the biggest thing that's happened to that team.
Yeah.
The run game just isn't there.
The run game isn't there, which puts a lot of pressure on Joe Burrow to go out there and sling it 50 times a game. And
Zach Moss isn't a bad replacement. I think it really is possible. The O-line is not as good as it should be. But coaching, I mean, you see these other coaches, they have the best backs in the league go down, and they don't miss a beat. I think it is coaching 100%. That's just my personal opinion.
I mean, when Joe Burrow went down last year or the year before?
Last year.
Bengals, I mean, they're not going to look the same, yeah, but it just seems scheme-wise, Joe Burrow was covering up a lot over there.
Yeah.
I think that Zach Taylor isn't your answer. He's not bad, but he's definitely not your top 5 coaches in the league that you need whenever you have a generational talent at quarterback.
I think Zach Taylor was the coach to get them into a winning culture, but he's done all he can for the team. I think it's time for somebody to advance them now.
I think that team has too big of an ego. I mean, you've seen it every week. There's someone on that team coming out and talking about the team they're about to play, basically saying, we're so much better than we shouldn't have to worry about them. I mean, he said they had asked about Xavier Worthy in that offense, and he said all Xavier Worthy can do is just run straight.
Yeah, Cam Taylor-Britt.
And then this last week they said Jaden Daniels, he's just a young quarterback. They keep it really simple for him. It's a great college offense is what was said.
Yeah.
And then he said Kingsbury is an NFL offensive coordinator, basically. And then you see what happens to him.
Does that fall into coaching, though? I mean, coaching and discipline. You don't have your team.
I mean,
I would say so, yeah.
And leading men and leading players,
Building a culture, for sure.
Because you don't see Chiefs players coming out and doing that.
No.
I think it was on Skip and Shannon. I think Shannon was like, I mean, the Chiefs could talk all they want to, and I'd be like, I mean, they won 2 straight Super Bowls. Who's gonna make them not talk? But they don't. That's how you win those games. You have a disciplined team.
It's like the team version of Juju Smith-Schuster when he was on TikTok out there.
All right, so we've gone through all these teams, but I want to touch a little bit more on the Cincy thing. So Zach Taylor, he's just been underperforming for a little while now.
Yeah.
The whole team's underperforming. Like we said, they've had problems, coming out and saying stuff about the other team too much. But they've also made comments towards each other. You've had the coach's comments about Jamar's comments about him, the coach commenting on the players saying that, but he hasn't done anything to really stop them.
Yeah.
Do you think there's trouble brewing in Cincy that could lead to a blow-up of that team?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a blow-up. I think it's a poorly ran organization from the top, and it trickles down. I think I wouldn't look too much into the Jamar thing with the coach. It's more of a being petty, where's my money type of thing. Jamar just wants to get paid, rightfully so. But I think there's a lot of expectations on the Bengals, and they're starting to feel it. Where they at? Where's this team from 2 or 3 years ago that we were raving about? Or the Bengals, they're always trying to keep up. It's like keeping up with the Joneses. You watch, trying to keep up with the Bills, trying to keep up with the Chiefs, and they're not built the same. We're starting to see a little bit the separation of quarterback talents with Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow's starting to slide a little bit.
Yeah.
We can only give him a pass for so long. He has his guys out there. even if he doesn't, those weeks that he doesn't, he has to figure it out. All the great quarterbacks do.
So who would you blame more for this? I mean, is it on the head coach? Is it on the front office for not paying these players sooner? You know, the T. Higgins holdout, letting Joe Mixon go. Now Jamar Chase wants his money, and you can tell he's still mad that he hasn't got his money.
I mean, this front office has been notorious for not paying your players. I mean, going back to Ocho, Carson Palmer,
Ushman
Sada. I mean, that front office it's poorly run, and that's a lot coming from me. I mean, I get to watch my poorly run team every single year.
Yeah.
But being in the same division as the Bengals, I get to watch them too. I mean, you saw this with the Andy Dalton era. They would lose players left and right, whether it was to media stuff or just lose them in free agency.
No interest of being there. Yeah.
No interest of being there.
And that's culture. I think that's culture. I think you have to get the right guy in there. I'm gonna allude to coaching.
Oh, yeah.
Because all this, you're gonna have this. You're gonna have. It's not a perfect world. You're gonna have this in organizations. Some players act like divas from time to time. We all have egos, and you're gonna have some better run organizations, front offices, and some poorly run. You still have to. I mean, I'd hate to keep alluding to the Texans, the turnaround job they did in that year, but it's a perfect example. I mean, the organization from the top to the mid level was one of the most hated in the NFL with the McNairs and everything. You get the right GM, you get the right coach, you already have the right quarterback, and it's a hit. The Rams did it when they brought McVay in and their GM. They went and found the quarterback a little bit later in Stafford, and it's been a hit since. Super Bowl, you got to get those three things right. I think you got to start with coaching because this coach is not working out.
I'd have to agree with that. You know, Zach Taylor, his record isn't even very good with the Bengals. I think we overlooked that with their Super Bowl appearance. I mean, that was a great team. They had all the chemistry. There was no egos with that team.
Yeah.
I mean, Jamar was fresh to the league. Joe Burrow was coming off an injury, so he had a point to prove. But now it's like that team has such a big ego that they don't really care just about winning football games anymore. It's about all the extra stuff that comes with being in the NFL.
Yeah.
The money, the fame, all that extra stuff. If you don't go win Super Bowls, no one's going to pay you that money.
Yeah, and that's where you do need a leader of men to lead professional athletes because you can lose them at any moment. That's why Mike Tomlin's so impressive. You see they play for him hard. The players respect him. He leads them in well. I think they need something like that in order to be successful and go all the way for the organization, for the team, for the players.
So moving over, I mean, I guess we can talk about hot seat coaches on the Zach Taylor thing. Should they look to boot Zach Taylor, or do they need to hold on to him, you think?
You really got to look at the market. You got a couple of coaches out there.
I'm sure there's someone in college that we're not thinking of that they can definitely move to.
I think there's a guy that's not in the NFL that's won games with a great quarterback that could go there. I mean, Bill Belichick.
In Cincy, though?
No.
I just don't see Bill wanting to go there, to be honest with you.
I could see Bill not wanting to go there, but I could also see him, maybe seeing something in Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Seeing I can win
Seeing
games
Tom
here.
Brady.
Yeah.
Because that's who he was compared to starting out in his career. I think we're going to have to wait and see how the season plays out. I mean,
You can't just move from your head coach week 4.
No.
I think in a situation like this,
I
though,
mean,
you
teams do it,
can.
but they're not going to midseason. I think they're going to
Especially-
wait till the end of the year.
Especially with the expectation that was put upon that team to go to the playoffs, make a deep run.
Yeah.
You can't just flip playbooks midseason and expect it to win.
I mean, the Raiders did it. They flipped midseason, and their team started
There was an
winning
attitude
games.
change.
Yeah.
It was a
You're
big
right.
attitude
And
change.
you could feel it, but they still didn't.
They still weren't a playoff team.
They
to
weren't a
begin with.
playoff team at the end of the day. I think they're going to call for Zach Taylor's job. They probably will end up taking it, but it's going to be at the end of the season.
You think even if they are somehow able to turn around and get in the playoffs, maybe not win a playoff game, but they make the playoffs, do you still think
If they
he's
make
gone?
the playoffs, his job is safe. I would say
I
so.
think they need to start looking outward, even if they do make the playoffs. I mean, Zach Taylor's proven that he's just not got it.
Unless they find something that a lot more confident about another coach, I think if he makes a playoff appearance, depending on how bad or good that game goes, it's going to
I guess
shake out.
I'm going to have to differ with y'all. I'm going to say he should be gone, but I'm going to say, do it soon. Like, do it before the season ends. I mean, there's so much more affecting the future of this team with him there now than it was before. I mean, you have Jamar straight up coming out like for his head and then him really not having anything to say about it. I mean, you can't have your players disrespecting your head coach like that. If you're the front office, you have to look at that and say, well, the whole attitude of this team's changed. We were looking at ourselves as Super Bowl contenders, and now we're 0-3.
I think that comes from Jamar just not getting paid though.
Yeah. I think with receivers, you're going to have that. I mean,
T.O. I mean,
we're seeing it time and time again.
I just feel like he's lost the team.
Yeah, he does. I think he has, or he's on the verge of it.
who do they play this week?
I'm actually not sure. I don't think it's a very good team.
I think that if they come out and look good, but we also said that about the Commanders though.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
the Commanders, they got a quarterback now.
they do.
They do have a quarterback now.
I think they need to give Zach Taylor the rest of the season, and they make their decision. Listen to the team throughout the year, feel where it's really going towards them, and then if they need to, part ways respectfully.
The hard move to do midseason.
Okay, moving over to another team. We touched on the Jaguars earlier.
Yeah,
I mean, Doug Peterson. How do y'all feel about
Get
his
him
job
out.
security?
Get him out. That Super Bowl was a fluke. Get him out.
Doug Peterson. I think he's a good coach, but I think he is also a culture builder, not a culture like he doesn't move a team forward. I think he builds a culture at first. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is underperformed. I think this is a little bit more on him, and it'll be a result of Trevor Lawrence's underwhelming play that Doug Peterson gets canned, but he will be most likely fired by the end of the season.
So they are 2-10, 2 of 8 of their last 10 games, and Doug Peterson has barely over a 500 record with the team. Do you put that more on him, or do you put that on maybe Trevor? I mean, we see his stats just not performing to the way.
I mean, this
we
season
think he
he's
should.
not performing this season. Trevor's not. The offense isn't looking good. They have a decent O-line, so it
I
kind
feel
of
like the offense regressed from last year.
it
Which
does
is
look like
wild.
it. Yeah. Trevor looks like he regressed, but he could still be coming off the injury. I don't know. We know last year was injury battled, so that's kind of understandable. But if this keeps going, I mean, 6 games, I could see them probably moving off of Doug Peterson if you could start the season 0-6, 0-7.
You think they do it midseason, like we were just
I
talking
can see it
about?
because there's no reason he hasn't been to a Super Bowl with the team. He hasn't been in the playoffs with the team. There's no past success really. What, one playoff win?
Yeah, that divisional round. Where they
Lost
ended
to
up
Kansas
losing to the
City.
Chiefs, but they
Yeah.
won that first round.
Okay, that. But outside of that, we haven't seen this guy get me to the Super Bowl before.
We also
you know
haven't
what I
seen
mean?
Trevor play at that level. But
True.
I'm gonna have to piggyback off y'all. I mean, if I was the Jaguars, I wouldn't have brought him into the season. Honestly, when you finish last season the way you do, you don't even make the play. Get close to making.
I mean,
Yeah.
they looked good until those last 8 games of the season where they just
they
crumbled.
went 0-8.
Yeah, they went 0-8, and they were
Uh,
looking for a playoff position. I mean,
Yeah, and that might be more than injuries. Of course, they had injuries they're battling, but the team also did not look good.
No.
And as part of your job as a coach, you got to rally when you have injuries.
I
I mean, the
mean-
Bengals were able to a little bit with their backup came in and played pretty well.
We saw with him in the Eagles, the early playoff success, of course, the Super Bowl win. But after that, they had that stretch where it was like, oh, we're bad.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
that's kind of the similar with this? They start off good. He has an early, decent playoff run with them, and they're like, okay, maybe they found their guy. And
I
then
think
it's
this is just a
complete drop-off.
telltale of another bad organization. Yeah, they have what we thought to be a primetime quarterback. The book's still out on that. But the Jaguars have never been a really great organization.
I mean, maybe
winning
when
organization.
Kaufman was there at the beginning of their,
Then
and that's it.
I mean, the Blake Bortles run.
That was a run. That wasn't
Yeah.
really a.
But outside of that, historically, they haven't been a great organization. I think we're just seeing that repeat itself.
Another coach I want to touch on a little bit. I don't know if his job's as hot as these two guys, but in my opinion, it's still a pretty hot seat. Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys. Any thoughts on that? You hold
mean,
on to him, or
I alluded to it last week. He was in Green Bay with 2 generational quarterbacks, countless receivers that were amazing, a great defense led by Clay Matthews. Still only got 1 Super Bowl, and that's just
I think
Who
Mike
he is.
McCarthy has gotten all he's going to get out of this Cowboys team. Jerry's not in the business of going and buying a star anymore. To add to that defense, offense, whatever is needed. He likes to build within, say, I drafted.
he should have gone out and gotten Sean Payton when he had the chance.
But to be fair, I don't think a quarterback, I don't think a different coach is going to get the Cowboys the result everybody's looking for while Jerry Jones is still running the Dallas Cowboys. So they're probably going to can McCarthy. I think they should can McCarthy
They're
because
just
there's
gonna-
no elevation of offense. The team is degrading, not ascending. But who are they going to hire? It's going to be the same story, I feel.
Maybe
I-
Mike Zimmer and just move him up, and that's
not with how that defense is.
They're not
looking.
going to fire McCarthy in the season.
If they were to move on, I think they need to go with some of the routes we're seeing these other successful teams do, other than the Bills or the Chiefs, and go get a younger head coach. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen success from many teams just going to get a younger guy that's
Go
had.
get Lincoln Riley.
I just don't see Jerry Jones doing that. I mean, Jerry Jones wants to be the centerpiece of that team, and that's how it's going to be until the day he dies, unfortunately.
We've seen it. It's true.
It is true. All right, so moving on, we have some great matchups next week. We have the Eagles-Buccaneers rematch. We have the Vikings and the Packers we touched on earlier. And then my favorite game of the week, we have Bills and Ravens. Which one of those games are y'all most excited to see?
I'm ready to see the rematch, the Philadelphia versus the Buccaneers. I want to see if Baker's going to still be rolling and that offense is going to be rolling. They did take the L to the Broncos this week, which is very surprising.
Baker does this all the time, though.
He does, but Sean Payton is a good coach. We know that. It's going to take some time to get that offense, those rookies going. But they didn't. It wasn't like a close game. I mean, it was closer in score, but they got beat pretty bad, I would say, last week. And we get a rematch of last year. The Eagles are coming off this win with the Saints. I think they got some confidence behind them because they beat a good team, a team that was reeling. And I'm excited to see if it was last year a fluke because I think the Eagles are going to have a point to prove.
I wish we had a healthy Eagles team to really see the rematch, because I think without that healthy team, the Bucs have a significant advantage, and I think the Bucs will end up winning this one.
I don't believe so. I think even with the Eagles not being fully healthy, they didn't have Saquon last year. Now they do. He's becoming the attitude of the offense. Jalen Hurts knows what he has to do when he has less stars to win a game. I think there's something to be said for this Eagles team to be like, hey, that last year y'all got us and it was a whole different situation. We're going to show up this time and it's going to be a big difference. I'm going to take the Eagles by a convincing amount.
I'm gonna say this: Baker Mayfield, after a terrible loss, and the media saying that he's a bad quarterback, is always the best quarterback in the league. He does this all the time. Every time that you say that he's bad, he comes back and shows you why he was the first overall pick, why he was that dude.
It took him 7 years.
Give me the Bucs by 50. It's gonna happen. Putting it out there
by 50.
by 50.
Jesus.
No, but for real, give me the Bucs.
Like I said, I'm excited to see this Ravens-Bills matchup. Josh Allen, Lamar, clash of the Titans.
Yes.
Who do y'all think comes out in that one? Do you think the Ravens roll off that big win over the Cowboys, or do you think this Bills team that's just looked dominant just keeps stomping the teams in front of them?
Where is it at?
Yeah.
I want to say this one is in Baltimore.
It's in Baltimore.
It's gonna be a closer game.
It's going to be a closer game. I still have a little bit of question. I know they're playing better than we expected them to play. I have questions about the Bills defense, just the consistency, if they can keep it up. I think Lamar is going to get back in place. They got the formula. They kind of getting back to who they are in this last game against the Cowboys. I'm going to take the Ravens, but not by much.
Okay.
Give me
And
the
this doesn't speak to the desolate or degrading of the Bills. They're not descending. I think it's NFL. You're going to lose a game to a good team from time to time.
I mean, that Bills defense looked amazing for the past 3 weeks, and it doesn't seem like they're slowing down any. I mean, like we said earlier, Josh Allen isn't doing those hero ball plays anymore. That's just a recipe for success for the Bills and disaster for the Ravens. So give me the Bills in this one in a very convincing win too. But in a serious note, like I'm thinking 14 points plus.
I'm going to have to say the Bills win. I think it might be a little bit closer, but I think the Bills win strictly off that defense. I think they're going to make Josh Allen have to throw the ball more than Lamar throw the ball more than we've seen. And he can. We saw it last year in the playoff game. He struggles when he has to throw the ball to win the game.
We saw it week one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we see this week again. He struggles throwing the ball, and the Bills keep rolling. And I won't say convincingly win. I'll say under 10 points, but I think it's going to be a great game.
Okay.
But we just touched on some of the top 5 teams, great teams in the league. So moving on to that, I want us to rank our top 5 teams throughout the season so far.
Okay. I'm going to roll it off, man. I got Chiefs number 1. They're defending champs for a reason. They're undefeated. Got to give it to them. After that, I'm going to go Lions. They lost a game a couple weeks back. They barely beat this Cardinals team. But when they grow towards I think overall they're just built better. That offensive line is true. The weapons they have, as long as Jared Goff is rolling, they're going to be rolling. Give me the Eagles after that. at number 3. And number 4, I'm gonna put the Texans still. You can hate it, whatever. That's why I got number 4. And number 5, I got the Vikings, even though we just lost to them.
I think our 4 and 5 are the same there with the Vikings and the Texans. But at 3, I think I got the Chiefs.
Chiefs at 3.
Chiefs at 3.
Okay.
Lions there at the 2, same reason, built very well. That run game seems like it's unstoppable. Even though they did drop a game, I still think that run game is the best in the league right now, even better than the 49ers. But hopefully we get to see Christian McCaffrey come back. But number 1, you got to give it to the Bills. They look unstoppable for these first 3 weeks of the year. And I don't see it slowing down, especially since we're not having to see Josh Allen do much to win these games. I mean, he can do it, and that's where I think that they differ now, is that Josh Allen's in a scheme to where he's not having to put the team on his back, go out there, get 50, 60 yards. And
I think they're playing some of the best ball for sure. Yeah. The Bills are. I just have we haven't seen them do this before. This is an anomaly. We've seen the Bills play one way. So I'm just have questions about it in a 17-game season.
I have similar teams to y'all. I still have the Vikings at 5 like y'all. I do have the Lions at 4 though.
Okay.
I have a team y'all didn't even have listed at 3. I have the Eagles at number 3.
I think I listed the Eagles.
Did you have the Eagles in there?
Mm-hmm.
I had the Chiefs at
Eagles
2.
At 3.
Eagles at 3. Chiefs at 2.
Okay.
And then I rocked with also having the Bills at that.
Bills at 1.
Similar reasons?
They're very high
pretty much
on them.
Same reasons. The Vikings, they've looked like arguably the best team so far, realistically. I mean, they've beat great teams, and they've beat them pretty convincingly.
Okay. I got to ask, why did we leave the Steelers off? They're 3-0. I know why I didn't leave them off, because I've seen the Steelers do this before back in 2020, come out, win 10 games in a row, and then drop it in the playoffs.
I think that's why. I think quarterback is the reason why. We don't know where we're going to get out of Fields yet. Could be a playoff team, but are they going to be a top 10 team by the end of the year?
I don't question Fields. I actually like Fields a lot.
I like him, but I do question he hasn't put up winning numbers ever.
My question for the Steelers is, do they have those explosive weapons on offense? I don't think they do. I think George Pickens is overrated. Pat Freiermuth is, he's not an amazing tight end.
No, he's kind of
he's a good tight end,
serviceable tight end. He was a lot better earlier in his career.
And then the running back room, Najee and Warren. It's a decent double back room, but
Najee looks like
one of them are very great. Najee looks slow.
Tired.
Yeah.
He's been used a lot in his college career and a lot early on in his NFL career, and he's only in his 4th year.
Yeah.
He already looks like he's been in the league for 10.
I think he came out at 23 or 24 already, though. He came out late. I disagree. I think they have pretty good serviceable weapons. They have people who can make big plays. George Pickens done it time and time again. It's going to go through the quarterback. They're going to be limited by their quarterback. They're going to be they're going to live and die on the quarterback. They're 100% are. Right now, he's just not losing games. He's making a play here and there. He has not opened up the offense one bit. And he's the type of player who can do it. We've seen a little flashes, but nothing constitutional yet.
I don't think he's opened up the offense because he doesn't have the weapons to open up with. I feel like that's why we've seen the coach play a little bit more safe with them, because he knows they don't have those big playmakers to really let Fields loose and go play the way Fields wants to play.
I think he has playmakers. He doesn't have an Xavier Worthy type player, Tyreek Hill, just take the top off of defense, but he definitely has playmakers.
I think that's what they're hoping Pickens was going to be, but he's a good stick mover. I think that's about it. I don't think that he's going to take the top off the defense.
I like Pickens in the red zone. I like him for a first down, 100%.
I don't think that this team is bad per se. Maybe they're on the cusp. I think they're. I were to look back, maybe 6 or 7. I'd have to actually look at it and break it down, but I don't see them making a deep run. I've seen it before, and
I don't trust it. To me, it's a quarterback play. I trust the coach, and he'll get them to the playoffs, but the quarterback play is just a question mark for now.
Tomlin's probably the best coach in the league right now.
So what are some teams y'all think could sneak into that top 5, in a couple weeks?
They've taken a couple. Well, they did. Actually, you know what? I think the Cardinals can sneak into the top 5. I think in 3 weeks, if they win 3 in a row, we're gonna be like,
especially in that division.
Will they remain top 5? No, but it's early, and teams are gonna lose. Teams are gonna win, but they played everybody really well, and they beat a good Rams team by a lot.
I'm thinking the Packers. They're looking good without Justin Love or Jordan Love. God bless. Talking about Justin Fields too much. But Jordan Love has been out, and they've still looked solid. Their run games looked really good. Defense is holding up. And you slot your quarterback back in there. I'm really excited to see this week 4 matchup between them and the Vikings. I think that'll determine whether the Vikings stay at number 5 or Packers come in and take that spot.
A team I think I actually had them in my top 7, believe it or not. They're a 1-2 team, and I had them in my top 7 teams. The Atlanta Falcons. They beat a good Eagles team. Arguably, I mean, they're a penalty away from beating the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Another team we're not talking about is the Saints, and they're playing them this week. So,
I mean, they beat the Saints team too. I mean, they, like you said, they play everyone well. You said that with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
But arguably, the Falcons have an argument that they should be 2-1. Obviously, they're not. But we saw the call against the Chiefs not get called. The late comeback from Kirk, again before with the Eagles. And then that first week, they just looked rusty. Like we had said before, that first week, we're kind of going to push to the side because they obviously didn't know their offensive identity.
Yeah.
And I think they're finally figuring that identity out now. And I think, give it 3 weeks, we're saying that Falcons are a top 5 team.
Unless they lose to the Saints here, then we go back to saying the Saints are probably top 5.
Yeah, I think there's another team they're going to live and die with their quarterback.
Yeah.
100%. But it's not, I mean, we expect them to win the division.
I mean, I think the Falcons, even though the Saints have came out so strong, the Buccaneers have came out obviously super strong also. I think the Falcons still are going to come out winning this division. And, I mean, who knows? They could be a sneaky team to make a huge run in the playoffs.
I need to see them play I need to see them play the Saints and the Buccaneers once to get a gauge on all 3 of those teams truly within the division.
Another division. I'm excited. A lot of parity in this MFL now. I mean, who's coming out of the NFC? I mean, we know that the Chiefs and Bills are going to come out of the AFC, but the rest of the teams, we really don't know.
I guess that's a good way to kind of close us out. I know we had made our predictions early in the season. Ricky, you weren't here then. So I guess we can retouch it right now. Give me the NFC Championship matchup you see coming and the AFC matchup you see coming.
I mean, the Rams get healthy. I think you see Rams and Lions, which we love seeing it. Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, both of them playing their old teams.
That would be a hell of a game.
I would love to see that.
We've already seen it this year, and it was a great game.
And it's always great.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, give me Bills Chiefs. But this time in Buffalo, I think the Bills come away with
where it was last year
with the 1 seed again.
Okay, I got give me the Rams and give me the Packers in the NFC game. I think the Packers are still they're gonna rally. They're gonna make a playoff run, end up in the NFC Championship against the Lions. And in the AFC, I got the Texans. I'm staying tried and true. I think we figure it out. And the Chiefs.
All right. I'm going to touch differently. I'm going to go Packers out in the NFC also, but I'm going to go with the Eagles still. I mean, like you said, when they get healthy, we've seen their offensive firepower, show. We've seen it week 1. We saw it week 2. We've seen when that offense is really clicking, they can put up points.
Yeah.
Out in the AFC, I'll go Bills. I think the Bills probably go all the way this year with how they're looking right now. I think they have the best shot out there. And then I would go with the Ravens. I think the Ravens figured out.
They rally.
Yeah, I think they rally. The Chiefs look like they're struggling. I don't know how they're going to be able to do. Kelsey's not playing the same way. They're already kind of struggling with injuries. And I think this is the year, we see the Chiefs, the age shows a little bit and the injury bug kind of starts getting towards them. Okay. So I'm thinking this is the first year we're going to see Mahomes not in the AFC Championship game.
Well, I like it. All right, guys, man, it's been another wonderful episode of Fourth and Football Podcast. I am Jacob.
I'm Wyatt.
And I'm Ricky.
Thank y'all for joining, man.